Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dick Gutman, and you are watching live on LVTV, channel 1390, a presentation of the candidates' night. So if you're at home, there are a couple things I'd like to remind you of. First of all, if you are still interested and have not yet voted your ballot, and you want to refresh your recollection as to what the propositions are all about, we are repeating on LVTV the analysis of the propositions. That analysis was done by Judge Stephen Perrin and Judge Melinda Johnson, and it originally aired on October 1st. But it is now being rescreened beginning tomorrow, October 15th, at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. And the presentation lasts for an hour and 33 minutes. And in that hour, I can assure you, you will get all you need and want to know about the several propositions that are on your ballot. If you have not yet voted your ballot, please remember that in Leisure Village, although it is not noted in the Ventura list, Leisure Village has an official ballot box. That ballot box is indeed authorized by the county voters board. And I can share with you that completed ballots can be mailed if you wish, or better yet, can be deposited between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. in a secure official drop box, which is chained to the flagpole outside the main entrance to our rec center. Please make sure that your ballot is properly signed and enclosed in the mail-in envelope that you received with your ballot. Again, the drop box is available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays only, and it is at the flagpole at the main entrance to the rec center. Folks, what could be more convenient? Please vote. And you have the capability of dropping off your ballot here at the rec center. That having been said, I would like to introduce this evening's candidate. And if you would please say hello to our audience, ladies and gentlemen. Our candidate for the 26th district?
Yes.
And that is, oh my goodness, I've had a senior moment. That, pardon me. Yeah, that is Ronda Baldwin-Kennedy. Sorry about that, Rhonda. I should know, but senior moment.
That's okay, Dick.
Rhonda, the opening statement time is yours.
Thank you. And I want to first thank Leisure Village for putting together this very important candidate forum where every resident here has an opportunity to hear from candidates their views, their opinions, their positions, because we are in critical times, and informed voters are very important. Many times voters don't realize that they voted for the wrong person until things start happening, and then they have to wait that time to elect a new representative. I live in this community. I live in CA 26. I'm a mother of 6, 3 adult children, and 7-year-old triplets. I work here. My children go to school right here in CA 26. I'm a practicing attorney. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution and the protection of individual freedoms. Here in Leisure Village, my in-laws have lived here for 2 years. It's a beautiful community. And if I was just 12 years older, I would be living here as well. But there are trying times and uncertain times today for seniors. Immediately when the stay-at-home orders happened, I thought about Leisure Village. I thought about how fearful residents may be. I thought about if seniors had a capability of getting refills on medication, if they had an opportunity to have maybe doctors by phone so they can get those important prescriptions, and if there was people out there volunteering to make sure that they got the essential goods and essential services to be able to weather through the stay-at-home orders. My goal is to make sure that seniors are protected, that they have the tools that they need and the resources that they need to have the best quality of life. One of my first jobs at 18 years old was at a nursing home. And the stories and the experiences that I felt and the opportunities I got to just get life lessons for those senior adults was just memorable. I still remember some of those lessons today. And Social Security, Medicare, and what some seniors wondering where their next meal is going to come from because the government plays ping pong and with people's actual resources. I know it was particularly hard for a lot of seniors here in Leisure Village during the stay-at-home orders because they were alone with no one to help or keep them company. I'm going to make sure that Leisure Village and other senior communities are well cared for and have an open door to my office if elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. I am now going to ask Sandra Gutman to read a statement by the opposing candidate, who is unable to be with us this evening, but has sent us her remarks. Sandra, would you kindly read the statement for Congresswoman Brownlee?
Congresswoman Brownlee has sent this letter to Leisure Village residents. I'm sorry I could not be here tonight. My opponent and I could not come to an agreement on what a debate should look like during a pandemic. My approach has been to lead by example and to do no harm, and I didn't feel the options offered achieve that. As you probably know, I've been to Leisure Village many times over the years, including participating in many debates. I understand how important you all are to my being in Congress, and I hope to be able to visit you all in person again very soon. I love representing Ventura County in Congress, and I would be incredibly honored to be able to continue to do so. Right now, the pandemic is clearly our biggest challenge. I have fought for significant funding for families, local government, our most vulnerable seniors, vaccine research, and funding for small businesses and their employees, and I will continue that fight. In an extremely divided Congress, I believe I've accomplished a lot for Ventura County residents, most of which came with strong bipartisan support. As you may know, I chair the VA Subcommittee on Health and the Women Veterans Task Force, and have spent a good deal of my time in Congress fighting for our nation's veterans, especially our women veterans who have a long way to go to reach equity, and I fought for our veterans here at home. I was particularly proud to have my bill, the Deborah Sampson Act, pass the House with overwhelming bipartisan support. It's the most comprehensive bill in the history of Congress to bring equity in care and benefits to our women veterans. I was also very proud to secure funding for a brand new VA-run community clinic that is slated to open next year. At over 40,000 square feet, it will be 7 times larger than the community clinic I inherited from my predecessor, and will have more specialty care closer to home. Based on my experience working on clean air and clean water, the Speaker appointed me to a special committee to finally address the climate crisis. We published the most comprehensive report on climate ever produced by Congress. It will serve as a clear roadmap to address the existential threat of climate change while building a clean energy economy, clearly the next source of economic expansion and high-paying jobs. I have fought to secure Social Security and Medicare for today's seniors and tomorrow's. I have fought to repeal the Republican-imposed tax deduction cap on mortgage interest and state and local taxes, an issue that particularly challenges Ventura County residents. I continue to secure tens of millions of dollars in funding for Port of Hueneme. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Now for a bit of housekeeping. I would like very much to thank a number of people whose hard work helped to put this evening together and to make it available to you in the audience on Leisure Village Television. First, to Mark Smith, who is manning the console for our electronics this evening, and also Jeff Perkins, who is assisting Mark. Beyond that, from our administration, Christy Moore, who is sitting at a computer and ready to receive information by email if you wish to send a question in. And finally, Marcy Lepere, who is sitting at a telephone and will take your questions if you have a question for our candidate. The telephone number to phone in questions is the same number as you ordinarily would use to call the rec center. It is 805-482-8961. That's 805-482-8961. And Marcy Lepere is prepared to take your question. Christy Moore will screen the question to make sure it is from a homeowner or resident. And then the question will be handed to me, and we will ask that question to our candidate. And answers are limited to 2 minutes. Moreover, there will be, ultimately after we have run out of questions, there will be an opportunity for our candidate to make some closing remarks. Closing remarks will be limited to approximately 3 minutes. And we have a timekeeper sitting with us. Our timekeeper has, and you in the audience can't see it, but our candidate can. Our timekeeper has a yellow flag and a red flag. The yellow flag is waved when there are 30 seconds remaining for a spoken answer, or 30 seconds remaining in the final summation. And the red flag is a signal to stop. And out of courtesy to the people who are here and in the audience, we intend to be a very small bit liberal on enforcing that rule. But you will see the flags at 30 seconds and the 3-minute flag. And hopefully can wind up your comment within a few seconds after that. Again, thank you so much for appearing here this evening. And we are at this point open for questions. Do we have any questions from from our listening audience? I have one that I'm sorry to do this with tongue-in-cheek, but it's where do you stand on gun control, for or against? Where do you stand on gun control, for or against? And incidentally, after reading the questions, I will not identify the name of the Leisure Village resident. Leisure Village residents can phone their questions in. We'll ask for your name and address, but we will not read your name or address to the audience or the people here in the rec center. So the question again, Rhonda, is where do you stand on gun control, for or against? You have 2 minutes.
Well, when we say gun control, it's really gun regulation. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution and the amendments and rights that our founding fathers bestowed onto us. The Second Amendment protects citizens of the United States to have the right to keep and bear arms. I strongly believe in the Constitution and every single right and amendment, and every amendment that was made, including the amendments that were made to give me, as a woman, the right to vote, and as a person of color, a black woman, the right to vote and equal protection. And I will always defend and support the Constitution. When they closed, put in the stay-at-home orders, I was the attorney that brought the lawsuit to Ventura County to force the gun stores back open. And many people bought firearms to protect themselves from the looters and protesters that were destroying property and breaking into homes. And as we know, with the stay-at-home orders, the Governor Newsom ordered many hardened and dangerous criminals out of prison, and there were a number of increased break-ins, assaults, and people wanted to purchase guns, which is in line with the Second Amendment, to protect themselves. Now, I believe in the full Constitution, which gives state regulations the right and under the 10th Amendment to regulate. But the regulations can be done as long as they are in line with the Constitution. So I will always support any enumerated right in the Constitution, which is the Second Amendment, and the right for its citizens to keep and bear arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Before I read the next question, I would like once more to share with the audience that although I am not wearing a mask and Rhonda is likewise not wearing a mask at this point in time, when she and I entered this assembly room, we, as well as all of the other occupants of the room, were wearing masks. And for ease of speaking, we have agreed, she and I, that we may take our masks off as we did on previous occasions when we did this kind of event, namely on October 1st. So I will, with the reminder that we did wear masks as we came in and agreed with one another that we could remove them for ease of speaking into our microphones. I'll now read the question. How do you justify not wearing a mask or social distancing at a campaign event and meeting with non-compliant pastor of a local church who continues to defy court injunctions to stop indoor religious services with no one wearing masks or social distancing? Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I got the question. Well, I'm glad that question came up. First of all, I did not attend church. I attended a media interview on a show called The Fireside Chat. There are no mandatory mask laws in California or across the country. There are guidelines, and guidelines are recommendations. They're not laws. There's no enforcement of wearing a mask at a private event. Further, the guidelines make absolutely no sense. If you are wearing a mask and you're sitting down and you're having lunch, you can take your mask off and sit next to someone just because you're sitting down and eating a meal. There is no social distancing nor required face mask while you're eating. So if I had a cheese and meat plate in front of me as I did that interview, I wouldn't have been required to wear a mask. The guidelines are inconsistent. They're conflicting. Even the recommendations of wearing masks are conflicted. I have never been infected with COVID. I've never, and I've been working and in courtrooms the entire time, even through the stay-at-home orders. So I said that I have a choice. A guideline is recommendation, which means I have a choice. And like I said, I'm a constitutionalist, and I will not conform to recommendations and government enforcement of something that is not a law. If they want to enforce it as a law, then as a legislator, pass the law and make it a law, but they can't. Why? Because it's unconstitutional, and I will always stand by the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question from a Leisure Village resident reads, I am told that there are several oil companies that are using antiquated oil leases to avoid all environmental impact reports being done before they frack for oil in Ventura County. All of this may endanger the aquifers that supply our crop and drinking water. What do you propose to keep our water plentiful and safe?
So the first part of the question was that there are oil companies that are avoiding or circumventing the environmental impact reports.
Yeah, let me read that first sentence again.
Thank you.
I am told that there are several oil companies that are using antiquated oil leases to avoid environmental impact reports, EIRs,
Okay,
before
well,
they frack for oil, avoid those that are being done or now formulated, I guess, before they frack for oil in Ventura County. All of this endangers the aquifers that supply our crop and drinking water. What do you propose to keep our water plentiful and safe?
well, I would propose that we close any loopholes that these oil companies are using to avoid giving the environmental impact report. It's not, as an attorney, you really can't blame companies and people for going within the confines of the law. It's up to the legislators to close those loopholes so they can't be used. So my first thing that I would do is examine how they're using, they're skirting their requirements and close that loophole so that everyone has to give, any oil company would have to give an environmental impact report prior to fracking. Was that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
A question from a Leisure Village owner. If elected, what do you think is the most important issue facing the United States, and what can Congress do about it?
Well, currently, right now, if you would have asked me this question 8 months ago, I probably would have a completely different answer. But right now, I think it's the impact that COVID has had on our local economy. I understand, across the country, each state has their own individual issues, depending on, what their goods are, what their state is. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so, we're the dairy state. But here in California, and particularly in CA 26, that's where I'm going to focus on. I know the rest of America is in trouble. However, I need to be concerned about CA 26. And right now, the problem is the closure of businesses, the high rate of unemployment, the suicide rate, and the mental health issues due to all of the closures needs to be addressed. But without businesses And without employment, we're not going to survive. We need to be finding a safe way to open up the economy, a safe way to open up our schools. Right now, kids are not having that interaction that's needed with other students. They miss their friends. My 7-year-old triplets miss their friends at school. They want to go back to school, and we should be thinking about them and thinking about how we can restore our local economy. We should be thinking about how we can recruit businesses here to Ventura County, corporations like SpaceX, bringing them out here to create more jobs, more high-paying, high-skilled jobs right here in Ventura County. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about Ventura County becoming a wasteland, like in the middle of some deserts. There's no more residents because everyone's moved out because it's just unaffordable and no jobs here in Ventura County. Thank you.
You mentioned schools, and this is a follow-on question
Sure.
concerning opening schools. Opening schools quickly and safely presents two adverbs that are in definite conflict with each other. Many loving grandparents have said that opening schools before there is a vaccine, or before hospitalizations are way down, or before there's more information available, would be opening them unsafely and too quickly. What specific criteria would you set for reopening schools, and on what or whom would you base your determination? Also, if you care to comment on that, do you think testing should play a part in reopening of schools?
Yes, absolutely. I think we should be developing and have rapid testing for students and teachers. Maybe we can do maybe rotating classrooms where we rotate maybe half the class certain days and half the class the other days, and do rapid testing so that we get results back right away. And it's just simply, we are being led by fear. And although the coronavirus is an actual threat and it's dangerous, we have to have a plan. We can't just lock ourselves away forever. It's not healthy. It's not mentally healthy for people. It's certainly not developmentally healthy for children. The children need the interaction. And a lot of schools across the country have already opened, and they've opened safely with no cases of coronavirus. And Ventura County has a very low number of coronavirus infections and a very low death rate, especially in children. But we have to actually think about the damage that we're doing to our children by locking them away at home. It's just not developmentally healthy for them. So I believe that we need to start concentrating on how to get our kids back in school. A lot of schools in Ventura County has actually opened. I just did a survey with Oak Park at Brookside, where my triplets attend, that they're going to be opening up around November 9th. So there's a way of doing it. But I know grandparents are fearful. I'm a grandmother. I have 4 grandchildren. 2 of them are in school. And I know that it's scary, but we have to think about the psychological damage and developmental damage that we're doing to our children, our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. A question on Social Security. What are your views on the health of the Social Security system? And if you want to comment a second matter involving the federal government, what are your views on the health of the Medicare system? So it's a two-part question. What are your views on the health of the Social Security system and or the Medicare system?
Well, Social Security is absolutely broken. It has become the government slush fund. When they overspend on different programs and different funding that they need to fund, their pet projects, they raid Social Security. That's not what Social Security was intended for. Social Security was intended as a retirement for those who pay into the system and those who earn their credits to receive their retirement money. Social Security is going to be bankrupt. There's not going to be anything left. And when you take Social Security money and you use it to fund other programs, it's not intended for its purpose. What I would do is I would actually lock government out of Social Security. You can't use it. You can't direct the funds anywhere else. It goes into the Social Security trust and it stays there, because it's unfair for those who have paid into the system and not be able to reap the benefits because Social Security is going to be bankrupt. And once that happens, then the money's going to have to come from somewhere. That means an increase in taxes or a decrease in benefits. We've already seen it where the age to receive Social Security has increased and the retirement age has increased. And that's government's solution, is to say, okay, well, we'll make them wait another 2 years. We'll make them wait another 3 years. We'll continue to make individuals' eligibility age increase, and maybe so many of them will die off so we don't have to pay out our Social Security. So I think we need to lock the fund, have it used for the purpose it was intended for Social Security payouts only, and not using it as a government slush fund. Thank you.
A related question comes from another village resident. With respect to the Affordable Care Act, which is under the gun now, as you may know,
Yes.
What would you do if it's defeated to help people with pre-existing conditions?
If it's defeated in Congress?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't think that that's going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen on my watch for an affordable care plan to absolutely be defeated. I don't think anyone in Congress wants that, and no one in the House or the Senate wants that. I think what's needed is it needs to be tweaked. The Affordable Health Care Act is new. Now, it's kind of arrogant for people to think who pass a law. I mean, first of all, it's named after President Obama. It's not Obamacare. Put your ego aside and say, it's a good idea, but we can make it better. Affordable to a lot of middle class and low income and seniors is not really affordable. Some people still can't afford insurance, because if you're a middle class family, you make too much money to actually be able to afford the insurance, but you're not rich, so you don't make enough money to not care how much the insurance costs. So it's not really affordable. I think we need to go in and make it actually affordable. So there needs to be an overhaul of the Affordable Care Act. It needs to be tweaked, maybe not completely replaced, but it definitely needs to be improvements to it. And I think it's kind of arrogant for some representatives to say not to touch it, to say it's perfect. It's not perfect. Nothing is never perfect. I mean, the Constitution was a beautiful document and was perfect during its time, but even the Constitution was amended. We need to amend the Affordable Health Care Act to make sure that it's actually affordable, and pre-existing conditions should actually be included. I actually feel and believe that it's unconstitutional and not legally sound to have pre-existing conditions being excluded from insurance, to having insurance companies to be able to exclude people based on pre-existing conditions. Thank you.
A further question having to do with perhaps with health and healthcare. How do you think the present administration in Washington has handled the coronavirus? And if you were elected, how would you change the manner in which the federal government gets involved?
Well, I think there are some pretty smart people in government, And if they would all just put their egos aside, particularly the Speaker of the House, who would rather attack the president than pass a coronavirus stimulus package to help America. Americans are suffering. The coronavirus has devastated this country with the closures of businesses and with unemployment, which also increased the crime because, people are desperate. They can't put food on their table. They're going to turn to crime to survive. So it actually puts us at an additional risk. I think if both sides of the aisle just work together and come together and come up with a plan, we would be able to get through this. I think the current administration and President Trump's administration did the best that they could with with the tools that were available to them. I think the quick closing of the borders actually saved lives. But I think that if states wouldn't have been resistant, because they do have a 10th Amendment and they have states' rights. So each individual states actually put out orders to close their own states. It's not up to the president to completely close the country because there is a 10th Amendment right for states to be able to determine the safety and welfare of its citizens. So we have to look at our state leadership and ask that question: how did they handle the coronavirus? Because the president doesn't have the constitutional authority to close the entire country. It was each individual state who mandated and put out their own regulations. So I think we should look at how the states handled it and not look at just how the Trump administration handled it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Staying in the governmental role area for a time, we have seen in the daily newscasts the fact that the stimulus package has been batted about in the House. But do you have an opinion about the House not passing the stimulus package, and should that be acted upon before or after the election?
It should be acted upon now. America is hurting. Children are suffering. This is just personal. And when members of Congress get their paychecks, they're getting paid, they're getting their benefits, they're going to have their retirement. They have their health plan, which, by the way, is not the Affordable Health Care Act. They have their own special insurance. They are getting special privileges, and Americans are suffering. They need to pass a stimulus package now. And they need to give it to the people of America. And it's particularly, I'm worried about CA 26. People need this money to feed their families, to pay their rent. And it's being held up by personal, political agendas, and because Nancy Pelosi hates our president. We're caught in the middle. Put your differences aside, Nancy Pelosi, and pass the stimulus package. I don't think that states who have mismanaged their money, like California, who was in a deficit prior to coronavirus, should be handed out tons of money and then to mismanage that money. The stimulus package should go to the residents and to the people of the United States and to businesses that are hurting. Because the small money that they want to dole out, $1,200 and $2,400, that's not going to do nothing. Businesses have lost tens of thousands of dollars. There's 25% of small businesses in Ventura County are going to go under. They need help. They need help now. We can't wait for it. So I implore Nancy Pelosi and Julia Brownley, who votes 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi, to put their differences aside and help the people of Ventura County and the people of America. Thank you.
I see that by the clock on the wall, it is a little past 20 minutes to 8, and I think we said we would take a 10-minute break at that time if we would do that. Is this an appropriate time for a break?
I'm just warming up. I don't know.
All
Do you
right.
guys-
Would you rather continue on?
I'm fine. It's
All
up to you
right,
guys.
I'll ask our checkers. All right, Mark? All right, thank you
All right.
very much, folks. We'll move right along. And for people at home, we still have our phone lines open, and we're prepared to take your questions. And the telephone number for your call-in questions is 805-482-8961. That's area 805-482-8961. And we have Marcy Lepere, who is standing by to take your question, and Christy Moore, who will validate the fact that it's from a homeowner or a resident. And that having been said, we'll move on with another question.
All right.
To Rhonda, what could you do to remove our village or units within the village from the FEMA flood map?
What could I do to remove them from the FEMA flood? Well, that I would have to do research on. If it's FEMA, it's federal, so it's something that I could definitely work on. But I would have to actually research the process and the constitutional powers to be able to do that. But if that's something that is wanted and is harmful to the residents or has a negative effect on Leisure Village, then that's definitely something that I would be willing to sit down with the residents and figure out exactly the issue, exactly how it affects them, and then work towards doing that. There's one thing about me, and many people know this, is that my door is always open. I am here, I am available, and I will always maintain an open door policy for issues to be brought to me, because I'm human and I will never pretend. I know a lot, but I will never pretend like I know everything. I talk to the experts, and a lot of things are brought to my attention of different issues. So if that's something that that the residents of Leisure Village has a negative effect on, then I would definitely, once I'm elected, sit down and we can talk about it. I plan on having town halls in every single part of my district and being around. So with that, I'm not going to pretend that I know how to do that. But I know how to do legal research and figure it out. Thank you.
Next question. There has been an increase in protests held outside the homes of senators and congressmen, not just government offices. Are you willing to make a statement against this invasion of private property?
Absolutely. It's terrifying to think that individuals can get your private home address and protest. And sometimes you don't know if they're there peacefully or if they're there to harm you. Myself, I had my co-counsel, Mark Angelucci, was murdered on July 11th. We were just in court together on July 10th, and I was on my way to meet him that Sunday, July 12th, when I got the call that I needed to go meet with the San Bernardino homicide detectives because Mark had been murdered the night before. A week later, that same individual went to New Jersey and tried to murder a federal judge, and killed her son and severely wounded her husband. This was the same individual that had a week prior had murdered my co-counsel. I myself got death threats, and I'm still living in fear. However, I did not let that stop my life. I'm still actively campaigning. However, I can imagine as an elected official how many people come out of the woodworks that want to do you harm. And it's hard for you to do your job when you have people who are threatening you and protesting against you, and especially when you have children, you have your family. So I think that like judges, their information, their private addresses and that are kept private. You can't find their information. I think we should do the same thing for elected officials, that our home addresses should be off limits, and anybody who is protesting outside their homes, it should be that should be restricted. Places of business is one thing, but homes should be completely off limits. Thank you.
Next question has to do with critical race theory with initial caps. Critical race theory, apparently the view that institutions, civil, financial, and legal, are inherently racist, has pervaded levels of education and employee relations training. What are your views on critical race theory and its implementation?
Well, first, I'd like to know who just made that up. But critical race theory, I really don't know what to say about that. It's kind of ridiculous to say that things are inherently racist. I mean, that is a very strong word. Does racism exist in America? Yes. Does racism exist around the world? Yes. But what exactly is racism? When we talk about racism, we immediately think of black and white, but there's different forms of racism. When you look at the most racist country in the world is actually Africa, where different tribes are committing genocide. So to make America just be the bad guys and think that we're racist, it's absolutely appalling. There's issues, yes, and they should be addressed, but many of these we currently have laws that protect us from racism. The Constitution, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, guarantees equal protection. Brown versus the Board of Education protects us from segregation. Loving v. Virginia protects us to ensure that no state can pass a law forbidding and denying equal protection for the right to marry whomever you choose. There are current laws in place already. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII, and I can go on and on and on. We already have protections in place, but when you start talking about critical race theories and calling certain groups inherently racist, we actually create a divide in this nation, and we need to stop, because as a black woman, I'm just fine. Thank you.
Rhonda,
Yes, sir.
where do you stand on the issue of pro-life?
Well, I'll do that with a story. I have 7-year-old triplets. And when the doctors discovered that I was pregnant with triplets, because of my height, can't see me behind the table, but I'm 5 foot tall, they did not think that I could safely carry them, that my life would be in danger because of my height. They actually wanted me to reduce down to a singleton, to one child. And I told my doctor that it's all of us or none of us. I did put a lot of strain on my body. I actually almost died in recovery. I almost didn't make it through. But I have 3 beautiful 7-year-olds today who are perfect. I went 33 weeks in one day, which is actually 10 weeks longer than the average triplets. They were 3 pounds, 3 ounces, 3 pounds, 9 ounces, and 3 pounds, 14 ounces. They were only in the hospital for 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks. And if any of you follow me or see me on social media, you'll see those 3 beautiful babies that are here because I chose life. Now, that is my personal belief. That is my personal standing. However, like I said before, I'm a constitutionalist and I'm about the rule of law. And as long as that is the rule of the Supreme Court, that's the rule of law. And but my personal belief is I believe in life, because I look at those 3 beautiful children and think that had I listened to my doctors, 2 would be gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Do we have any more questions that have come in? All right.
That's it.
Then hearing nothing further about questions, give our TV audience one more opportunity to phone in. The telephone number here in the AR. You can phone in your questions and it will be answered. The number is 805-482-8961. We'll give our candidate, Ronda Baldwin-Kennedy, an opportunity to go ahead.
May I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Can we take our break and then come back to see if people called in by then? And then if not, then we can conclude?
We'll do that. We'll take a 7-minute break until 8 p.m.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, we're back again, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and we are live on Channel 1390, Leisure Village Television. And we are almost at the end of our program. So if you went out to get that soft drink or whatever suits you at this time of night, or this time of night, and whatever suits you, such as a dish of ice cream or the like, it's too late to pop the popcorn, because we have only one more question, and then we'll have a closing statement from our candidate. The last question is, how do you feel about taking the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, when it becomes available, you personally?
How do I personally feel about it?
Yes, would you take it?
If I needed it, yes, I would take it if I needed it. Is there anything?
All right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. It's like, I'm not in the vulnerable category. So if my doctor recommends that I take it or I have it, then I will. But that's what I'm going to leave up to my medical provider, which I feel that everyone constitutionally has a right to have medical decisions made between themselves and their doctor, not between an individual and the government. So if my doctor recommends that I need it and I need to take it, then that will be my choice to take it and listen to my medical provider. But that's who I'm going to take my advice from, not from the government, just from my medical provider, which I think that's constitutionally has been the standard and should be.
Thank you.
Yep.
And we have a final statement that's been furnished to us by Congresswoman Brownlee, and it's just a very short, several paragraphs, and I will read it at this point. Congresswoman Brownlee says as follows: I'm most proud that we have one of the best constituent casework offices in the nation, handling over 8,000 cases, answering 750,000 constituent letters, and returning close to $20 million in federal benefits owed to Ventura County families. The times have found us, and there is still much more work to do. And I, speaking now again for Congresswoman Brownlee, I would be most honored to continue to represent you and fight for you in Congress. And she continues on saying, if you have any questions, please telephone me at 805-330-1070. That's 805-330-1070. Or email me at julia@juliabrownlee, one word, .com. That's julia@juliabrownlee, one word, .com. She also notes that she participated in a virtual forum yesterday, a recording of which can be found at the Ventura County League of Women Voters website. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And I will now ask our candidate, Ronda Baldwin-Kennedy, for her closing remarks. Ronda, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. And thanks for having this. I just want to say that I am here. I am here listening and taking the calls. I'm taking these hard questions, and I'm facing my soon-to-be constituents. I have to say, and I hate doing this, but your current representative, Julia Brownlee, has been MIA for 4 terms. The number one complaint that I get on the campaign trail, which is ironic that Julia Brownlee just touted how many constituent letters that she's answered, the number one complaint that I get is that she's never around. She's not here. She doesn't, people contact her office, and she doesn't return calls. She only helps, and she's only around every time there's an election. Well, now she actually has to campaign because I'm here. During the shutdown with coronavirus, I was receiving her phone calls, and what I was getting was, I tried to get a hold of Julia Brownlee's office, and there was no response. Julia Brownlee didn't even have the wherewithal to go to Washington and represent CA26. She gave a proxy to another representative on the East Coast. If you can't do your job, then you should move out of the way and let the next generation take over and come in with new, fresh ideas. I have fresh ideas for CA26. Julia Brownlee has been missing from this district. She's using coronavirus as an excuse right now to avoid this candidate forum. This candidate forum was offered to be done via Zoom, or she could have called in. But instead, she decided and thought that Leisure Village didn't take the effort to actually pick up the phone and call and answer questions. This is your current representative. I think she should be the one that's here, not her challenger. But I'm here, and when I'm elected, I will always be here for my constituents. I will have an open door, and you can ask me anything, and if you have any problems, I will be there for you. I just won't come around pandering for your vote on an election year. Lastly, I stood out in the hot sun for 45 minutes at a large rally and answered every single person's question. Didn't know if they were Democrat or Republican. It didn't matter, because at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and we need to stop being divisive, and we need a Congress that's going to work together, put their differences aside, and actually work for the people. We are a democratic republic, so when we elect a representative to go to Congress to represent us, they represent us, not themselves, not their own personal interests, not people of their own political party. They represent the entire CA26. And I will be your representative. I will be your voice, and I will fight for you for this district, because nobody knows who Julia Brownlee is in D.C. You need a representative who's there, who's present. And a one-term Congresswoman AOC, everyone knows who she is. Why doesn't not anyone know in D.C. who Julia Brownlee is? I want to be your representative. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidate. And with that, we will close our meeting. And I would. I'm sorry. Can you give my website? Of course. Why don't you go ahead?
Oh, okay. And if you want to find more information about me, you can visit my website, follow me on social media at rondakennedy.com. That's Ronda with no H, Kennedy.com, or you can call my campaign office at 805-665-3991. Thank you.
Why don't you give that phone number one more time, Ronda?
I know I talk fast. I'm a litigator. 805-665-3991. Thank you.
You see, we are speaking to a Leisure Village audience, and we are a bit sometimes having senior moments and a bit slow on the uptake.
Gotcha.
And we're not all ready with pens in hand. But thank you so much, Ronda, for joining us here this evening, sharing your views with us. We appreciate it very much. For those of you in the LVTV audience, you've now been with us for approximately an hour, and I would like to tell you that if you tuned in late, of course, if you tuned out early, then you're not hearing me now. But if you did tune in late and missed the early questions and answers, this program will be repeated on LVTV channel 1390. That is Leisure Village's captive channel. It will be repeated on Friday the 16th at 10 a.m., at 3 p.m., and at 8 p.m. Again, if you missed the early rushes of this evening's presentation, you can tune in to LVTV channel 1390 on Friday the 16th at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. and see the entire thing from start to finish. I want to once again thank Mark Smith and Jeff Perkins and also Christy Moore and Marcy Lepere and our ever-present board member who is sitting with mask on. You haven't seen him on camera, but I do want to thank Bob Bueling for helping to facilitate this evening. Also, many thanks to you, our candidate for Congress.
Thank you.
And I've been wondering whether I should call you Rhonda Baldwin-Kennedy or Ronda Kennedy. But you are on the ballot as Rhonda Baldwin-Kennedy.
That's correct, but Kennedy's fine.
So
It's a fine
thank you so much for your presence, and thank you, Leisure Village people, for your questions, and thanks to everyone who participated. Good evening, and